I never planned to become a folk hero. I certainly never planned to revolutionize the concept of suburban horticulture or end up as a case study in law schools regarding aesthetic malice. All I wanted was to drink a cold IPA on my porch, listen to the cicadas scream into the void, and exist without being harassed by a woman whose soul was made of beige vinyl siding and parliamentary procedure. It started on a Tuesday. Tuesdays in Oakwood Estates were usually quiet, mostly because that was trash day and everyone was too exhausted from dragging their bins to the curb to cause trouble. I was standing on my porch, enjoying the humid embrace of a mid-July afternoon, when I saw it attached to my front door. A notice. Bright pink. Neon, offensive pink. I walked over, the wood of the porch creaking under my sandals, and ripped it free. Citation 402B. Aesthetic violation. Nature of offense: turf height exceeds regulated aesthetic maximum by 0.5 inches. Fine, $500. Remedy: immediate rectification or lien placement. I stared at the paper. Then I stared at my lawn. It was green. It was lush. It was, quite frankly, a damn good lawn. It wasn't a jungle. It was a carpet. It looks a bit shaggy, doesn't it, Michael? The voice hit me like a splash of cold vinegar. I looked up. Standing on the sidewalk, holding a literal clipboard and a retractable tape measure, was Mrs. Linda Higgins. She was the president of the HOA, a woman who wore floral print blouses that looked like they were upholstered onto her body, and whose hair was sprayed into a helmet capable of deflecting small-caliber gunfire. "Linda," I said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "Good afternoon. I see you've been busy." "Just doing my rounds," she said, tapping the clipboard with a pen. "We have standards, Michael. Property values don't maintain themselves." I walked down the steps, the citation crinkling in my fist. "Linda, it rained for 3 days straight. If I mow it when it's wet, it tears the sod. You know that. It's barely over the limit." "Rules are rules," she chirped. She knelt down, actually knelt on the concrete, and extended her tape measure into the grass blades near the curb. She squinted. "See, 4.5 inches. The limit is 4. It's untidy. It suggests laziness." "It suggests I have a job, Linda," I snapped, my patience fraying. "And it's 90 degrees out. If I cut it to 4 right now, the sun will scorch the roots. Do you want a brown lawn? Is brown the aesthetic standard now?" She stood up, dusting off her knees. "I don't care if it's dirt, Michael, as long as it's uniform dirt. We need uniformity. We need order. Make it look like a showpiece, or I'll process the lien by Friday. You have 48 hours. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the pavement like a countdown clock. "A showpiece," I muttered to myself, watching her retreating figure. "You want a showpiece? Okay, Linda, I'll give you a showpiece." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey and the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association covenants, conditions, and restrictions. It was a 300-page tome of misery. I read through fence height restrictions, permissible mailbox fonts, and the prohibition of non-secular garden gnomes. My eyes were burning. It was 3:00 a.m. I was about to give up and just mow the damn grass when I turned to page 214. Section 14.B. Ornamental landscaping. Living art, topiaries, and patterned turf intended for cultural beautification are exempt from standard height restrictions, provided they demonstrate artistic merit and are maintained by a licensed professional. I froze. I reread it. Then I read it again. Patterned turf. Exempt from height restrictions. Cultural beautification. I looked out the window at my dark, offending lawn. A slow, wicked grin spread across my face. Linda wanted art? I would give her the most famous piece of art in history. I grabbed a napkin and a Sharpie. I wasn't just going to mow the grass. I was going to turn my front yard into the Mona Lisa. The next morning, I called in sick. I had work to do. I needed a professional. Section 14B was specific about that. I couldn't just go out there with my push mower and hack away at it. I needed someone with equipment, credentials, and preferably a loose moral compass. I found Dave's High-End Horticulture on Yelp. The reviews were mixed. "Dave is a genius," said one. "Dave tried to convince me to shape my hedges into a fractal dragon," said another. Dave was perfect. I met him at a diner on the edge of town. Dave was a mountain of a man in a neon yellow vest that was stained with chlorophyll and engine grease. He had a beard that looked like it housed wildlife and eyes that gleamed with manic energy. "So," Dave said, poking at a plate of hash browns. "You want me to mow a picture? Like a baseball diamond?" "No, Dave," I said, sliding the sketch across the sticky table. "I want Da Vinci. I want the Mona Lisa, but I want her made of grass." Dave picked up the napkin. He stared at it. He tilted his head. "Kentucky bluegrass for the shadows," he mumbled. "It grows dark, dense. Fine fescue for the face. It's lighter, wispier. We'd need to scalp the negative space down to the rhizome for the background contrast." He looked up at me, a grin splitting his beard. "This is about an HOA, isn't it?" "Section 14B, I said. "They fined me for half an inch. I want to give them 4 feet of height differential." Dave slammed his hand on the table, rattling the silverware. "I'm in. I hate HOAs. My ex-wife is an HOA president. I'll do it for cost of materials and a case of beer." "You're hired," I said. "But we have to be precise. If it just looks like patchy grass, they'll fine me. It has to be undeniable art." "Buddy," Dave said, pulling a tablet out of his backpack. "I have a zero-turn mower with GPS guidance and a laser leveling system I stole from a golf course in Dubai. We're not just mowing, we're terraforming." We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. We mapped my lawn using satellite imagery. We generated a topographical heat map of the Mona Lisa's face. The nose would be a raised mound of soil, sodded with dense rye. The eyes would be manicured to exactly 1.5 inches. The enigmatic smile would be achieved by varying the blade angles of the grass so it reflected light differently depending on where you stood. "It's going to take heavy machinery," Dave warned. "It's going to be loud." "Good," I said. Thursday morning, 7:00 a.m. The peace of Oakwood Estates was shattered by the sound of a diesel engine roaring to life. Dave didn't bring a lawnmower. He brought a trailer carrying something that looked like a lunar rover with spinning blades. Behind that was a sod cutter and a truck full of specialized fertilizer. "Let's make some art!" Dave screamed over the engine noise. We started by staking out the grid. Neon orange flags popped up all over the yard. I stood on the porch with my coffee, watching Dave calibrate the lasers. It took exactly 12 minutes for Linda to appear. She didn't walk this time. She power marched. She was practically vibrating with rage. "Michael!" she shrieked from the sidewalk. "What is this? What is that machine? You are destroying the grading of the subdivision." I walked down to meet her, holding my laminated copy of the bylaws. "Morning, Linda. Just complying with your request. Making a showpiece." "This is construction!" she yelled, pointing at Dave, who was currently ripping up a section of grass where the Mona Lisa's forehead would be. "You need a permit for grading. You need approval from the Architectural Control Committee." "Actually," I said, holding up the paper, "this falls under Section 14.B, Ornamental Landscaping. exempt from committee approval if the project is cultural in nature. We aren't grading, we are sculpting. I'm calling the police, she hissed. This is destruction of property. It's my property, Linda. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911 right there on the curb. Yes, I'd like to report a disturbance. My neighbor has heavy industrial machinery. Yes, he's tearing up the neighborhood. 20 minutes later, a cruiser rolled up. Officer Miller stepped out. I knew Miller. He'd responded to a noise complaint at my Super Bowl party 3 years ago and ended up staying for a hot dog. He looked tired. Mike, Miller said, adjusting his belt. Mrs. Higgins says you're building a strip mall in your front yard. Officer, Linda interrupted, stepping in front of him. Look at this. It's a disaster zone. The noise, the dust. It's art, officer, I said calmly. I'm engaging in a cultural beautification project authorized by the HOA bylaws. Miller looked at the lawn. Dave had cut a massive curved trench in the middle of the yard. It looked like a crop circle. It looks like a mess, Mike, Miller said. It's the underpainting phase, Dave shouted from the Rover. You can't judge a masterpiece by the gesso layer, officer. I handed Miller the permit Dave had smartly pulled from the county clerk's office online, a generic landscaping modification permit. He has a permit, Mrs. Higgins, Miller said, handing it back. And it's his grass. Unless he starts painting swear words or digging a moat, there's nothing I can do. But the noise, Linda screeched. It's 7:45 a.m. on a weekday, Miller shrugged. Construction is legal after 7 o'clock a.m. Sorry, ma'am. Miller gave me a wink. Keep it clean, Mike. As he drove away, Linda turned to me, her face a mask of cold fury. This isn't over. I will find a violation. I will measure every blade of grass with a caliper if I have to. You do that, Linda, I said. But be careful. You might step on the art. Over the next 2 days, my lawn transformed. It was grueling work. Dave operated the Jeep's mower like a surgeon. He cut the grass at 5 different heights to create shading. We laid down rolls of dark, genetically modified sod for the hair and the dress. We used a lighter lime green strain for the skin tones. It started to draw a crowd. Neighbors walking their dogs would stop and stare. At first, it just looked like weird abstract shapes. A blob of dark grass here, a patch of dirt there. It looks like mange, my neighbor Steve commented, leaning over the fence. Wait for the grow-in, Steve, I said. Trust the process. Dave was a maniac. He was out there with handheld scissors, trimming individual blades. The eyes, Mike, he'd mutter. The eyes have to follow you. If the grass grows to the east, she looks cross-eyed. We need vertical growth. We pumped the lawn full of rapid growth fertilizer. By Saturday morning, the magic happened. I woke up and walked outside. The dew was heavy on the grass, catching the morning light. From the porch, it looked interesting, texture and depth. But to really see it, you needed altitude. Ready for the reveal? Dave asked. He was sitting on the hood of his truck, looking exhausted but triumphant. Let's do it. I launched my DJI drone. I flew it straight up, hovering at about 50 feet, and cast the video feed to the big screen TV I had set up in the driveway. Steve came over. Then the couple from across the street. Then the mailman. We all looked at the screen. There she was, the Mona Lisa. Rendered in chlorophyll and loam, the different grass heights created perfect shadows. The dark sod formed her hair and veil. The lighter fescue was her face. Dave had even used a slightly reddish mulch in the soil mix under the cheeks to give her a subtle flush. And the smile. My God, the smile! It was perfect. A smirk made of centipede grass. Holy cow, Steve whispered. It's It's beautiful, the mailman said. It's 4 feet tall in some places, I noted, proudly. And completely legal. Linda Higgins arrived 10 minutes later. She didn't have her clipboard this time. She just stood on the sidewalk, looking at the TV screen, then at the lawn, then back at the screen. It's grass, she whispered, horrified. It's Section 14B, I corrected. Do you like it? I think she really captures the spirit of the neighborhood. Mysterious, watchful, slightly overgrown. It's an abomination, she sputtered. It's mocking me. It's just smiling, Linda, I said. Why so serious? I underestimated the power of the internet. Steve's kid, a teenager named Tyler, filmed the drone feed and uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, "My neighbor went to war with the HOA and mowed the Mona Lisa." HOA war # malicious compliance. Art. By Sunday noon, it had 3 million views. By Sunday evening, the news vans arrived. I was sitting on my porch, drinking that beer I had promised myself, when a reporter from Channel 5 stuck a microphone in my face. "Sir, tell us, what inspired this masterpiece? Was it a commentary on environmentalism? A tribute to the Renaissance?" I looked at the camera, then at Linda's house across the street where the blinds were twitching. "Well, Bob, I really just wanted to highlight the natural beauty of unregulated growth. Art, like grass, shouldn't be constrained by the oppressive rulers of society. Literally. The rulers. They use tape measures." The Mona Lisa, as the internet dubbed it, became a tourist attraction. People drove in from 3 towns over. They took selfies with the lawn. An art critic from the city paper wrote a column titled, "Suburban Renaissance, the juxtaposition of manicured conformity and wild genius." The HOA board was in a panic. I received an email notification for an emergency board meeting to be held on Monday. Location? My front lawn. They set up a folding table right on Mona Lisa's nose. Linda sat in the center, flanked by the treasurer and a lawyer I'd never seen before. "Mr. Henderson," the lawyer began, adjusting his tie. "While we appreciate the creativity, this installation is causing a public nuisance. Traffic is backed up. There are strangers in the neighborhood. We are citing you for Article 9, creating a safety hazard." "It's a painting made of grass," I said. "If people can't drive and look at grass at the same time, that's a DMV problem, not an HOA problem." "We are ordering you to cut it," Linda snapped. "Immediately, or we will hire a crew to cut it for you and bill you for the service plus damages." "You can't touch it," Dave stepped in. He was wearing a suit jacket over his neon vest. "I've filed for a preliminary injunction. This is a recognized art installation under copyright law. If you destroy it, you're destroying intellectual property." "It's grass!" Linda screamed, losing her composure entirely. "It's just long grass." "That's subjective," I said. The meeting ended in a shouting match. Linda stormed off, kicking a patch of fescue that made up Mona Lisa's left hand. "That's assault," Dave noted. Tuesday came. The deadline the lawyer gave me expired at noon. I took the day off. Dave brought his entire crew. We stood on the porch, arms crossed. At 12:01 p.m., a landscaping truck I didn't recognize pulled up. Greenscapes was painted on the side. 4 guys hopped out with weed whackers. "Don't do it, fellas," I yelled. "Work order says mow it all down," the foreman shouted back, yanking the starter cord on his trimmer. The buzz was like a swarm of angry hornets. "Dave, blocking formation," I yelled. Dave's crew moved the heavy machinery to block the driveway, But the Greenscapes guys hopped the curb. They were mercenaries. They didn't care about art. They just wanted to cut. I ran out onto the lawn, shielding Mona Lisa's face with my body. "You're trespassing!" "Cut it!" Linda screamed from her porch across the street. "Cut it all down!" The foreman stepped forward, the weed whacker revving. "Move aside, sir." Sirens wailed. Officer Miller was back. But this time, he wasn't alone. A black sedan followed his cruiser. Miller stepped out, looking exhausted. "Everyone turn off the damn trimmers!" The silence that followed was deafening. "Mrs. Higgins called again," Miller sighed. "Said you were inciting a riot." "They're trespassing on my property to destroy my art," I said. The man from the black sedan stepped out. He wore a city ID badge. He looked like a librarian who had seen too much. "I'm Inspector Vance," he said. "City Code Enforcement." Linda ran over, triumph in her eyes. "Finally, tell him! Tell him this is a code violation. It's vermin harboring. It's a fire hazard." Inspector Vance adjusted his glasses. He looked at the lawn. He looked at the drone feed playing on the TV. He looked at the crowd of tourists filming with their phones. "Actually," Vance said, his voice dry, "I'm here because the mayor saw this on the news. He thinks it's hilarious." Linda's jaw dropped. "Excuse me?" "Technically," Vance continued, pulling out a document. "Since this installation has attracted significant tourism revenue for the local coffee shops in the last 48 hours, the City Council has voted to designate this property a temporary point of cultural interest. It's protected under the City Arts Initiative for the next 30 days. He turned to the Greenscapes foreman. "If you cut one blade of that grass, I will revoke your business license for vandalism of city-protected art." The foreman immediately shut off his trimmer. "I'm out. Not worth it." He waved to his guys, and they loaded up. Linda stood there, trembling. She looked small, defeated by bureaucracy. Her own weapon. "But the uniformity," she whispered. "It's a masterpiece, ma'am," Miller said, suppressing a laugh. "Move along." The victory was sweet, but short-lived. Linda resigned the next week. The humiliation of being overruled by the city council was too much for her. She moved to a condo in Florida where, rumor has it, she is currently terrorizing the pool maintenance staff. The Mona Lisa stayed for exactly 30 days. It was glorious. But here is the thing about malicious compliance. Eventually, you have to live with the result. Keeping a photorealistic grass painting alive is a nightmare. "You need to water the left nostril," Dave told me 2 weeks in, handing me a misting bottle. "It's browning out, and the eyelids need a trim with cuticle scissors." I spent every evening out there, hand pruning my lawn with tiny scissors while neighbors waved. My water bill was astronomical. The fertilizer smelled like wet socks. When the 30-day protection expired, the grass had grown too wild. The Mona Lisa looked like she had let herself go. She looked like Chewbacca. I called Dave. "Bring the mower," I said. "Time to retire the old girl?" Dave asked. "Yeah, it's time." We mowed it down together. It took 10 minutes to destroy what took days to build. When it was done, the lawn was a flat, uniform 4 inches. Perfect. Boring. I stood on the porch with a beer. The sun was setting. The lawn was just a lawn again. Steve walked by with his dog. "Shame to see it go," he said. "What are you going to do now?" I looked at the blank canvas of green. I looked at the bylaws book still sitting on my table. I remembered Section 14.c, statuary and rock gardens. "I don't know, Steve," I smiled, taking a sip of beer. Dave mentioned he knows a guy who can carve Mount Rushmore out of a hedge. I think I might have some patriotic duty to fulfill. Somewhere in Florida, I hoped Linda Higgins felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Worth it, I whispered.